Hello, everybody. Justin Stivers here. Thank you guys and gals for tuning in, listening, watching another episode of the Stivers Show. My guest today is Rosie Cruz-Sotero. Rosie is a realtor with the Kai's Company, Miami local. How's it going, Rosie?
Hi, Justin. Great to see you on this Wednesday morning.
Yeah, it's good to have you on. Well, excited to have you on because I know you do a very experienced realtor, do a lot of work in the area, and real estate crazy right now. I think everything is for sale and for crazy high prices as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But you know, where I like to start is maybe just kind of tell us a little bit of about who you are and what you do.
Well, first, again, thanks for having me. As I was telling you before, it's my first official Zoom podcast, however, so I'm officially initiated, so very exciting, and I hope to do you justice. But basically, before real estate, I've been in real estate for a few years, but before then, I was a marketing executive. I worked with major brands in what is considered experiential marketing. So it sounds kind of weird, but it really was a lot of fun. And I did that for a lot of years. I want to say 12 years or so. And basically I handled what's called consumer facing experiences with different brands. So think about it when you go to a concert, not having many of those these days, but when we did, and you know, as a consumer, we were faced with different experiences to sample different products and you know, and pretty much have a really interactive experience with different brands. So that's some of what I did before, and through my marketing experience, I'm able to apply lots of my experience back then and knowledge into real estate and adding a twist to my marketing initiatives from a real estate standpoint. So it's a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Awesome. And so how long have you been a realtor now?
About 6 years.
Okay. So I got to ask, best place to start is what's going on with the market right now? What are you seeing? And is there enough houses for everyone to get one?
There's always opportunities, depends on the area. The market, as you know, it's a little crazy right now as far as prices go and inventory, mainly because of inventory. The one thing that I always tell people is to trust the process, because especially if you're financing, there's always going to be certain things in motion that give you a sense of comfort if you're buying, and if you're selling as well. There's, you know, appraisals that come into place, there's inspections that come into place. So it's important to really be guided by a professional, a real estate professional along the process, because now more than ever, I feel, because there's a lot of ins and outs, especially from a seller's perspective. There are a lot of multiple offers. So there's a decision of how do I pick the best offer when I have, you know, a ton of offers that pretty much look the same. So that's the key factor right now in today's times from a seller's perspective, and from a seller's perspective, not to abandon that section of it. It's also important to keep in mind that while we want to take advantage of the market and where it is, it's not the time to be greedy. We still have to be smart. There's an opportunity to still gain a good profit selling smart, but certainly not the time to get greedy, because it could come back to bite you. So, and then from a buyer's perspective, putting your best foot forward with a great offer and some amazing backup is more important now than ever. With, you know, solid pre-approvals, having your agent have those important conversations with the listing agent, that really, you know, the communication that drives an acceptance at the end of the day, because I am very, very much about communication. And it's not just about submitting the offer and see what happens. It's about having good representation from an agent that has those conversations with the listing agent in order to make that offer as attractive as possible. What are some of the terms that are important to the seller? It's not always about the price. The seller, for instance, might need more time to move. They weren't expecting to sell this house in a day. It's happening. So what are some of the key things that are important to the seller? And knowing of those is important in order to have, the best offer presented to them and have a great shot at getting the house.
Are there areas you're kind of, seeing, that, I mean, there's certain areas that I think are always going to be popular, but maybe just talking a little bit about some of the hot spots, areas you need to be careful in, or just kind of what you've seen as far as different neighborhoods here in Miami.
As far as inventory, the further east you go, it's going to be tighter, because you're more central, and obviously when, a lot of people are now going back to work and resuming their work lifestyle. So getting back on the highway is still important. So the further east is obviously going to be always, more competitive in terms of inventory, especially now. And getting closer to those highways, getting closer to the main, roads like US 1, et cetera. Where the newer developments are, as far as Homestead, Doral, in certain areas where we see a lot of more saturation in homes, and especially when the homes are more similar. I wouldn't say, cookie cutter, that's the term out there, but where there are very similar models, very similar homes, and there are perhaps more available of supply than in other areas. That's the time when sellers really need to be very, very smart on a sale price. Perhaps consider certain improvements on their home that will add greater value and a greater point of differentiation from their competitors whose homes may be very similar in size and finishes, location, etc. So in those particular instances, sellers, need to be a little smarter about price point. What can they do to add to their home that's going to differentiate their home more than their neighbor, which has the exact same model or the exact same house. So that's interesting, but it's always fun to challenge ourselves, and to strategize. I'm a big believer in strategizing, and I think that comes from my marketing brain.
I think that's great advice. Do you see any changes? I mean, do you see, it taking a dip, stabilizing a little bit, or is this just kind of the way it is because Miami is just a popular place to come? There's, you can only go so far in either direction before you hit water. So, what is your kind of, what does your insight tell you?
I wish I had the crystal ball. But I feel in my instinctively that there's only so much this can hold as far as prices. I don't necessarily think that they're going to decrease drastically, or decrease at all, but perhaps there's going to be a correction of sort, which could mean flattening, not necessarily a decrease. We'll have to see what happens in the coming summer months. We have seen apparently an uptick right now in New York, seeing more. I connect with a lot of agents through social media in New York, and I see that there's an uptick right now. So the market is getting a little healthier. The Hamptons in New York is doing apparently really well. So we'll have to see what really happens in those markets, which at one point was our foreign market. When back in the day, when Latin America was, the Northeast is our new foreign market here in South Florida. So we'll definitely have to take a closer look at what happens in the Northeast in order to really, with the pandemic and everything, in order to have a better idea, and analysis as to what could happen this year. But I don't necessarily think that it's going to decrease, or increase a lot more. I think it's more of a correction of sort in the coming months and toward the end of the year.
Yeah, it's interesting to see what happens. No, I think that's probably spot on. I mean, I definitely, everywhere I go, in the building, where I'm at is, I hear people coming from New York, Northeast, coming down here for a month, 2 months, wanting to buy a place down here. So that's kind of that's what I see as well. Shifting a little bit though, we were talking before we started filming, Florida, especially South Florida, aging population. And in my day job as a probate attorney, I'm dealing a lot of times where mom and dad had a home, they pass away, and now, maybe they didn't do any planning in advance, and the kids want to sell it. They got to go through probate, and it, leads to fighting, can lead to fighting and whatnot. But sometimes on the other side of it, before it gets to that, and I think all of us maybe have some way been affected by this. Parents get older. They want to keep their independence. They don't want to get rid of the home. They've been in the home for 20, 30, 40 years, what have you. And so it was kind of interesting. You were kind of bringing that up and say that that's a space in the real estate that you work in, or I'm kind of curious to hear what you have to say about that, because I have never really spoken with realtors about that.
Yes. So I had the opportunity, thankfully, to assist and guide families during the path to sell, to move, relocate, etc. When they're in an elderly stage, whether it be working directly with the seller if they are a senior citizen in that phase in their lives, or with their children, one child, one heir, or multiple. And one of the things that is challenge of the child, well, not a child, I'm just referring to them as a child, but of their son or daughter, trying to convince the parent when the house is just too big. There's a lot of maintenance. There's, and perhaps there's one living parent at that time. So it's a challenge for the, son or daughter at that point to try to convince the parent that while they're healthy, it's the time to make decisions. Because the worst thing you want is to make decisions in a rush, under pressure, under stress, because health has gotten the worst of you, and now the parent is in a situation where other plans need to take place or need to happen. So making decisions of this sort, which are so important in life, I always advise that, try to make these decisions and have these conversations, which are always, sometimes tough, while the parent is healthy and while the parent is in control of making the decision. And I think from a son-daughter standpoint, relaying that to the parent, which is, listen, we need to have this conversation while you're healthy, while you can make your decision, because I don't want to be in a position to make the wrong decision for you later when you're not healthy and when you're in a hospital, when you're bedridden, or perhaps mentally not there. So it's a tough conversation, but I think that positioning it in that way to the parent shows a sense of responsibility, sensibility toward them, that you want them to, the son or daughter wants them to be part of the process at the right time. Yeah.
Yeah. I have that conversation pretty much daily, and it's difficult because, you don't, as the son or daughter, you don't really want to have that conversation with your parents, and they don't really want to have the conversation either. But if you just play it out a little bit, what I see, it can go from bad to worse really, really quickly. And if you don't have some sort of plan in place, by the time you start thinking about it, it could already be too late, and you just, so many legal issues, and it's just a bad situation. So I think that's interesting. I think that's probably a good thing for, realtors to be talking about with some of their customers as well. Last thing, I know we're coming up on our time, but last thing to maybe chat a little bit about, with your marketing background. And I know a lot of people out here watching, listening, they're marketing, trying to figure out how to grow their business. How have you found a way, because there's like attorneys in South Florida, there's a ton of realtors in South Florida. Have you found a way to kind of carve your own little niche, or find a way to market yourself that you think has been productive, or still kind of figuring it out?
Well, I try to do everything, because that's kind of like how I was wired from when I was promoting different initiatives from a marketing standpoint. As far as, events and so forth at that level, I always try to do, as far as network marketing is so important, connecting day to day with my sphere of influence, connecting with my current customers, past customers. I love talking to people. I think I was, I was born a talker. So I love having conversations. I could spend all day connecting and reconnecting with people. And I think that that is so important in order to stay top of mind with everyone, because like you said, there are so many attorneys and there are so many realtors and you know, and so many dentists, let's say, that I feel that really connecting and reconnecting with our sphere on a one-to-one basis is more important than probably you know, any social media post or any direct mail piece that we send out. There is, you know, there is no secret that in our industry, most of our success comes from referrals. So in order to really, you know, garner those referrals, it's important to stay connected. And I think, you know, sometimes we're so used to being on our phones or texting, or we're so used to social media, et cetera, that we forget the importance of making, you know, those connections count. So that would be my, you know, kind of like my end of it.
No, I think that's great. I think it's, you know, it's easy. We're always, a lot of us are looking for that silver bullet, that thing that's just, you know, that secret that nobody else knows about, but it's really, use your phone, call the people you know, call your friends, call your family, call your classmates, let people know what you do, call your past clients, call your existing clients, and connect with them regularly as much as you can. Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm a huge believer in that. Well, Rosie, great job on your introductory, you know, podcast, Zoom call and everything. That's awesome. Great job. No, it's fun. And so if people want to learn more about, you know, learn more about you, get in touch with you, use your services, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you or find you on any platform?
Talk about phone. You can call me. You know, I'm usually very available. It's 305-788-0611. And, you know, I'm always available through email, but my Instagram, I don't know if you can tag it or not, but, certainly, all my contact information is there as well. And as well as on Facebook. But the best way of reaching me is my cell phone. Like I said, I'm always connected to it. 305 788 0611. Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, we'll put all that information in the show notes as well.
great. Thank you again, Justin, for this wonderful opportunity. Hopefully it's not the last and we can get to talk about some other interesting topics.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rosie. My pleasure. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.